Ben Shapiro is one of the sharpest public intellectuals alive. He defends the sanctity of life. He argues for objective moral truth. He insists that Western civilization needs God, needs tradition, needs institutional authority. He sounds more Catholic than most Catholics, but he's not Catholic. He's an Orthodox Jew, and there is exactly one doctrine standing between Ben Shapiro and the Catholic Church. Most people assume Judaism and Catholicism are worlds apart. They're not. The real distance between Ben Shapiro and Rome is razor thin, and the doctrine blocking him is the most radical claim in human history. Here's what most people miss. Ben Shapiro doesn't just agree with Catholics on politics, he agrees on philosophy, on natural law, on the existence of objective truth, on the necessity of institutional religion, on the sacredness of marriage, on the moral structure of the universe. He studied at Harvard Law, was raised in Orthodox Judaism, keeps kosher, observes Shabbat, and has engaged deeply with the Catholic intellectual tradition, including Thomas Aquinas and the scholastics. When you listen to him defend moral realism, you're hearing arguments that come straight from Catholic natural law theory, and he knows it. If you're interested in deepening your faith, hit like and tell me where you're watching from. Consider subscribing to stay rooted in Catholic truth. Support our videos, team, and tools. Link in description or scan the QR code on screen. But where does this teaching actually come from? The shared ground between Judaism and Catholicism runs deeper than most people realize. Both traditions affirm one God who created the universe with purpose. Both hold that human beings are made in the image of God, with inherent dignity that no government can revoke. Both insist on moral absolutes grounded not in human opinion, but in divine revelation. Both value liturgical worship, priesthood, covenant, and sacred scripture. The Catechism of the Catholic Church, paragraph 839, states explicitly that Jewish faith is already a response to God's revelation. This isn't politeness, it's doctrine. The early church understood this continuity because the early church was Jewish. Peter was Jewish. Paul was a Pharisee and Torah scholar. James led the Jerusalem community while still worshipping in the temple. Mary, the Mother of God, was a Jewish woman who prayed the Shema every day of her life. As St. Paul wrote in Romans chapter 11 verse 18, "You do not support the root, but the root supports you." The Catholic Church depends on its Jewish roots, and it has never claimed otherwise. Nostra Aetate, the Second Vatican Council's declaration on non-Christian religions, affirms the Church's spiritual bond with the Jewish people and declares that God's covenant with Israel has never been revoked. So what does this mean practically for you today? If Ben Shapiro agrees with Catholics on virtually every moral, philosophical, and political question, then the one thing separating him must be enormous, and it is. The doctrine blocking Ben Shapiro from the Catholic Church is the Incarnation, the belief that Jesus of Nazareth is God-made man, that the eternal, infinite creator of the universe took on human flesh in the womb of a Jewish woman named Mary. In Hebrew, the concept is called hitgasmut, meaning embodiment, the physical manifestation of the divine, and this is precisely what Jewish theology says God cannot do. Maimonides, the greatest Jewish philosopher, codified it in his third principle of faith. God is not a body. God has no physical form. Physical concepts do not apply to him. For an observant Jew like Shapiro, accepting the Incarnation appears to violate the most fundamental Jewish truth, the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 4. If God is absolutely indivisibly one, then how can Catholics claim he became a man? This is the stumbling block. This is the one doctrine. And it is worth exploring whether that stumbling block is as solid as it appears. Here is what most people don't know. In the Second Temple period, roughly 200 years before Christ through 100 years after, Jewish thinkers were already discussing divine plurality within God. The historian Alan Segal documented extensive evidence of what he called the two powers in heaven tradition. Many Jews believed in a supreme God and a secondary divine figure, variously identified as the angel of the Lord, the Son of Man, or the Logos. Philo of Alexandria, a devout Jew writing in the 1st century, described God's Logos as his firstborn son, the divine intermediary through whom God created the world. That language will sound familiar if you've read John chapter 1 verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Dead Sea Scrolls contain a text known as the Son of God fragment. which describes a figure who shall be called the Son of God, and they shall call him Son of the Most High. These are Jewish texts written before Jesus was born. The idea that God could have a son, that God could manifest in a personal way, was not foreign to Judaism. It was part of the conversation. If you're exploring these connections, check out our web app for daily Catholic resources and soul search to go deeper. Now I know what some of you are thinking. If the Shema says God is one, that settles it. But look at the Hebrew more carefully. The word for one in the Shema is Echad. And Echad does not necessarily mean an absolute, indivisible singularity. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, the two shall become one, Echad, flesh. One flesh, but made of two persons. In Genesis chapter 11, verse 6, the people are one, Echad, one people made of many individuals. In Numbers chapter 13, verse 23, one, Echad, cluster of grapes. One cluster made of many grapes. Echad is a compound unity. If God intended to describe himself as absolutely solitary, the Hebrew word Yachid, meaning unique, alone, singular, was available. And Yachid is never used of God in the Shema. This doesn't prove the Trinity on its own, but it opens a door that Maimonides tried to close. St. Augustine of Hippo, writing in the 5th century in his masterwork on the Trinity, argued that God's oneness is not a mathematical singularity, but a unity of love. God is love, 1 John chapter 4, verse 8. And love, by its very nature, requires a lover, a beloved, and the bond between them. The Trinity is not three gods, it is one God whose inner life is an eternal communion of self-giving love. Nachmanides, the great medieval Jewish sage, was perhaps the most honest about why Jews cannot accept this. In the famous Disputation of Barcelona in 1263, he declared, "The doctrine that the Creator of heaven and earth entered the womb of a Jewish woman and there took on human form is something that a Jewish mind cannot accept." Notice what Nachmanides did not say. He did not say the doctrine is irrational. He did not say there is no evidence. He said a Jewish mind cannot accept it. This is a statement about identity and tradition, not about logic. And it reveals why this is such a deeply personal barrier, not just for Shapiro, but for every faithful Jew. The Catholic response is not to attack Jewish identity, but to show that the Incarnation is its fulfillment. God did not violate his own nature by becoming man. The Logos assumed a human nature without ceasing to be divine. Saint Gregory of Nyssa saw this prefigured in the burning bush. Fire dwells in the bush without consuming it. Divinity dwells in humanity without destroying it. God has always been drawing closer to his people. The Shekinah in the tabernacle, the glory cloud in the temple, the Word made flesh in Mary's womb. Each stage is the same God moving closer until the distance is zero. So where does this leave us? Ben Shapiro already has the moral framework, he has the natural law, he has the commitment to objective truth, institutional authority, and the God of Abraham. What he doesn't have yet is the Incarnation, and the Incarnation is the foundation that makes everything else cohere. If God became man, then human life has infinite dignity. If God took on a body, then the body is sacred. If God suffered, then suffering has meaning. If God died and rose, then death is conquered. The sacraments, the priesthood, the church itself, all of it flows from the fact that God entered his own creation in the person of Jesus Christ. Remove the Incarnation, and the moral realism Shapiro defends has no ultimate foundation. This isn't a criticism of Ben Shapiro. It's a recognition of how close he already is, and it's an invitation, not a demand. The Incarnation cannot be forced, it can only be encountered, and for those of us who have encountered it, the only appropriate response is gratitude, wonder, and a prayer that everyone who seeks truth will follow it wherever it leads. If this helped you, share it with a friend, subscribe, and check out our web app for daily Catholic resources and soul search. The author of the letter stepped into his own story, and he is still standing at the door.